Imagine waking up in the morning and the first thing you feel is pressure. The pressure of unfinished tasks, the pressure of expectations, the pressure that the day hasn't even begun yet, but you're already exhausted. You open your eyes, and instead of feeling joy for a new day, you feel anxiety. Your body is still lying in bed, but your mind is already racing somewhere, sorting through to-do lists, recalling problems, analyzing conflicts. And in that moment, before you've even gotten up, you're no longer living. You're surviving. This is the state that a huge number of people find themselves in today. We've become so accustomed to it that we consider it normal. We think this is how it should be. That life is a struggle, that every day we need to overcome obstacles, that relaxing is a luxury we can't afford. And we don't even notice how this constant tension steals from us the most valuable thing: our ability to create, our ability to feel the fullness of life, our ability to be truly happy. Stress is not just an unpleasant feeling. It's a state that reprograms your entire body. When you're under stress, your body switches to survival mode. This is an evolutionary mechanism inherited from our distant ancestors. When a primitive human saw a predator, their body responded instantly. The heart began beating faster, muscles tensed, breathing became shallow, adrenaline flooded the bloodstream. All of this was needed for one purpose: to survive, run or fight. Nothing else mattered. It didn't matter what the weather was like today. It didn't matter what you wanted to draw on the cave wall. It didn't matter what you dreamed about. The only thing that mattered was the next few seconds of your life. And here's what's important to understand. Our body doesn't distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. For our nervous system, there's no difference between a tiger running at you and a boss who's unhappy with your work. There's no difference between a real danger to your life and the fear of not finishing a project on time. The body reacts the same way. The same hormones, the same tension, the same survival mode. But there's one critical distinction. An encounter with a tiger lasted minutes. Either you escaped or you didn't. And if you escaped, the stress ended. The body returned to its normal state. You could rest, recover, start living a full life again. But modern stress never ends. It's chronic. It's constantly present in the background. You wake up with it, you fall asleep with it, you eat with it, you work with it, you rest with it, if you can even call it rest. And here's what happens to a person who is constantly under stress. Their entire body is tuned to one thing: survival. Survival means reacting to threats. Survival means being in constant readiness. Survival means not relaxing, not getting distracted, not dreaming. Because if you dream, the tiger will eat you. If you relax, the enemy will attack. If you get distracted, you'll miss the danger. And that's why a person under stress cannot create. Creativity is a state opposite to survival. Creativity requires openness, while survival requires closure. Creativity requires trust in the world, while survival requires suspicion of everything. Creativity requires time and space, while survival requires instant reaction. Creativity is born from abundance, while survival is always about scarcity. Think about it. When was the last time you felt genuine inspiration? When was the last time an idea came to you easily, naturally, as if by itself? When was the last time you were so captivated by something that you forgot about time? I'm willing to bet it wasn't when you were stressed. It happened when you were relaxed, when you felt safe, when you weren't rushing anywhere, when nothing was pressing on you. Creativity is a flower that blooms only under certain conditions. It needs light, it needs water, it needs time. Stress is like frost for this flower. It freezes everything alive in us. It forces us to close up, hide, protect what we have, instead of creating something new. And the scariest thing about this is that we often don't even realize how deeply stress has penetrated our lives. We think everything is fine. We think this is how everyone lives. We think this is just adulthood, just responsibility, just real life. But actually, this isn't normal. It's a pathology that we've normalized. Look at children. Small children who haven't yet absorbed all our adult fears and anxieties. They constantly create. They draw, make up stories, build sandcastles, play in imaginary worlds. For them, creativity is as natural a state as breathing. They don't try to be creative, they simply are creative. Because they're not in survival mode. They feel protected, they trust the world, they're not afraid of the future. And so their energy flows freely into creation. Now look at adults, at us. We've lost this ability. We say we're not creative, that we can't draw, that we have no imagination. That creativity is for special people, for the talented, for artists and musicians. But this isn't true. We haven't lost the ability to create. We've simply blocked it. Blocked it with stress, fear, anxiety. Our creative energy hasn't gone anywhere. It's just all going toward survival, toward staying afloat, toward coping, toward not breaking down. It's like having a powerful computer, but 90% of its power constantly goes to an antivirus program scanning the system for threats. Yes, the computer works. Yes, it's protected, but it can't properly perform its main functions. It lags, it overheats, it works at the edge of its capabilities, and all of this just to stay safe. That's exactly how our brain works in a state of chronic stress. Our amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for reacting to threats, is constantly active. It's constantly scanning the environment for danger. It's constantly ready to hit the alarm button. And this consumes a huge amount of our energy. Energy that could go toward creation, toward development, toward the joy of living. Now let's talk about exactly how stress blocks creativity. This isn't just a beautiful metaphor. It's a physiological fact. When we're under stress, our brain works differently. Some areas activate and others are suppressed. First and foremost, stress activates what's called focused attention mode. This makes sense from a survival perspective. If a tiger is running at you, you need to focus on one thing, the tiger. You don't need to notice how beautiful the sky is today. You don't need to think about what you'd like to cook for dinner. You need to see only the threat and react to it. But creativity works differently. Creativity requires what's called diffuse mode. This is when your attention floats softly, when you notice connections between different things, when you're open to unexpected associations. The best ideas often come not when we're intensely thinking about a problem, but when we're relaxed, in the shower, on a walk before sleep. Because that's when our brain shifts into diffuse mode and different parts of the brain begin to freely communicate with each other. Stress blocks this mode. It keeps us in focus, in tension, in readiness. And so we can't see new possibilities, can't notice unexpected connections, can't break out of familiar thinking patterns. Additionally, stress suppresses the work of the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, creative thinking, self-control. When we're stressed, the brain's resources are redirected from these higher functions to more primitive ones, to fight or flight reactions. We literally become dumber under stress. We think worse, make worse decisions, control our impulses worse. And this isn't because we're weak or not trying hard enough. It's just physiology. Our body does what it's programmed by evolution to do. It's trying to protect us. But the protection methods that worked millions of years ago don't work in the modern world. We're stuck with a Paleolithic body in a digital age. There's another important aspect. Stress changes our time perspective. When we're surviving, we think only about the present moment. At most, about the immediate future. What should I do right now? How do I get through this day? How do I solve this problem immediately? We don't think about long-term goals. about dreams, about who we want to become. That's a luxury that survival doesn't allow. But creativity requires long-term thinking. Creativity is always about the future. It's about creating something that doesn't yet exist. It's about imagining possibilities. When we create, we go beyond the present moment. We dream, we plan, we visualize. And all of this is impossible when our brain is captured by survival. I want you to truly feel how deep this problem is. This isn't just about not being able to paint a picture or write a poem. Creativity is a much broader concept. Creativity is the ability to create your life. Creativity is the ability to see possibilities where others see dead ends. Creativity is the ability to find new solutions to old problems. Creativity is the ability to imagine a better future and move toward it. When you lose creativity, you lose power over your life. You stop being the author of your story and become its victim. You stop creating and start only reacting. Reacting to circumstances, reacting to other people, reacting to problems. Your life turns into an endless series of reactions instead of conscious actions. And here's what's scariest. Many people live this way for years, for decades, their whole lives. They never leave survival mode. They never discover what they're truly capable of. They never create what they could have created. They never live the life they could have lived. And worst of all, they won't even know what they lost. Because how can you mourn something you never had? How can you know about possibilities you never realized? It's like living in a small room and not even suspecting that beyond the door is an entire world. You simply accept your small room as all of reality. Now let's talk about the mechanisms through which stress enters our lives and stays there. Because understanding these mechanisms is the first step toward changing something. The first mechanism is habituation. Our nervous system is very adaptive. It adjusts to any conditions. And if you live in stress long enough, your body begins to consider it normal. Your baseline cortisol level rises, and you no longer feel stress as something unusual. It becomes the background of your life. You may not even realize you're under stress, because for you, it's just the usual state. It's like living near a railway. The first days, the trains seem unbearably loud. They keep you from sleeping, they irritate you, they disturb you. But after a while, you stop noticing them. Your brain has adapted. The trains haven't gotten quieter. You've just gotten used to it. But this doesn't mean the noise isn't affecting you. It still affects your sleep, your health, your nervous system. You just don't consciously realize it anymore. It's the same with stress. You may not consciously feel it, but it's still doing its destructive work. It's still keeping you in survival mode. It's still blocking your creativity. You just now consider it normal. The second mechanism is identity. We often make stress part of who we are. We say, I'm the kind of person who constantly worries. Or, I'm a perfectionist, I can't relax. Or, I have a demanding job, stress is part of the game. We wear our stress like a medal, as proof that we're important, that we work hard, that we're serious people. In our culture, stress has become a status symbol. If you're not busy, if you're not tired, if you're not stressed, it means you're not trying hard enough. It means you're lazy. It means you're not serious. And so we subconsciously hold onto our stress. It gives us a sense of our own importance, our own value. This is a crazy distortion in thinking. We've started to believe that suffering is proof of worth. That the more we suffer, the more we're worth. But this is completely false logic. Your worth isn't determined by how exhausted you are. Your value isn't measured by the amount of stress you endure. The third mechanism is fear. Paradoxically, many people are afraid to leave stress. They're afraid that if they relax, something bad will happen, that they'll lose control, that everything will fall apart. Stress gives them an illusion of control. As long as I'm worrying, As long as I'm tense, as long as I'm in a state of readiness, I'm controlling the situation. And if I relax, who knows what might happen? This is also false logic. Stress doesn't give you more control. Actually, it gives you less control. Because when you're stressed, you think worse, make worse decisions, see the bigger picture worse. You react instead of acting. You put out fires instead of building something new. Real control over your life is precisely the ability to leave survival mode and start creating. The fourth mechanism is adrenaline addiction. Stress causes a release of adrenaline, and adrenaline is a powerful drug. It gives you energy, it sharpens sensations, it creates a feeling of being alive. And many people become dependent on this feeling. They don't know how to live without adrenaline. Calm seems boring, empty, meaningless to them. So they constantly create stressful situations for themselves. They put things off until the last minute, then work in deadline mode. They take on more than they can handle. They seek drama in relationships. They don't know how to simply be. They always have to do, fight, overcome. This is a real addiction. And like any addiction, it destroys life. It exhausts the body, it empties the mind, it kills creativity. Because creativity isn't born in adrenaline rush. Creativity is born in silence, in calm, in space. The fifth mechanism is environment. We're social beings, and we tend to adapt to our surroundings. If everyone around you is stressed, you'll be stressed too. If your company's culture is constant emergency mode, you'll be in emergency mode too. If your family constantly worries, you'll worry too. Stress is contagious. It spreads from person to person like a virus. We pick up the emotional state of those around us. And if you're surrounded by stressed people, it's very hard to stay calm. You subconsciously synchronize with their state. That's why it's so important to consciously choose your environment. This isn't always completely possible. We can't change all the people in our lives, but we can be more attentive to how our surroundings affect us. We can seek islands of calm. We can set boundaries. We can be the ones who bring calm into our environment instead of absorbing other stress. Now I want to talk about what life actually looks like when you leave survival mode and enter creation mode. Because for many people, it's hard to imagine. They're so used to stress that they don't know how things could be different. Imagine waking up in the morning not from anxiety, but from a feeling of curiosity about the new day. You don't have to force yourself to get up. You want to get up because the day promises something interesting. You don't immediately think about problems. You think about possibilities. Your mind is clear. Your body is rested. Your energy flows freely. You eat breakfast not on the run, but calmly, enjoying the food. You don't scroll through anxious news and don't check work email. You're simply present in this moment. And in this simplicity, there's something deeply nourishing, something that no amount of coffee or energy drinks can provide. You go to work or start working, and work doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like an opportunity to do something meaningful, create something new, make your contribution. You're not afraid of mistakes. You see them as part of the learning process. You're not afraid of criticism. You're open to feedback. You're not trying to prove your worth. You're simply doing what makes sense. And here's what's amazing. In this state, you do more and better than when you're stressed. Because your energy isn't scattered on anxiety, on self-criticism, on internal conflicts. It all goes into the work. You focus easily, naturally. Ideas come on their own. Solutions are found faster. Work seems to do itself. This is what psychologists call the flow state. It's a state when you're completely immersed in what you're doing, when time flies unnoticed, when effort feels easy, when results exceed expectations. And this state is impossible in survival mode. It's only possible when you feel safe, when you're not afraid, when you trust the process. After work, you don't collapse exhausted. You still have energy for life, for hobbies, for friends, for family, for yourself. You don't feel that life is just work and sleep. You feel that life is a full experience where there's room for everything that matters. And here's what's most important. In this state, you're not just living, you're creating your life. You're not just reacting to what happens, you're actively shaping your reality. You're not just surviving, you're flourishing. This isn't fantasy. This isn't utopia. This is a real state that some people live in, and it's a state you can enter. But for this, you first need to leave survival mode. You need to make a conscious choice to stop surviving and start living. I understand that for many people this sounds unrealistic. They say, easy for you to talk, but I have a job, children, loans, problems. I don't have time for these fantasies. I have to survive because that's how circumstances are. And I'm not saying circumstances don't matter. Of course they do. There are real problems, real challenges, real responsibilities. I'm not saying you should ignore them. But there's a huge difference between handling challenges from a position of strength and handling them from a position of survival. It's a difference in inner state. It's a difference in how you approach problems. Do you perceive them as threats or as challenges? Do you see yourself as a victim of circumstances or as a creator of your life? Do you live in fear or in trust? And here's what's interesting. When you change your inner state, external circumstances also begin to change. Not magically, not instantly, but gradually, inexorably. Because when you're in creation mode, you see possibilities you didn't see before. You make better decisions. You attract different people, different situations. You create a different reality. This isn't esoterics. This is practical psychology. Our inner state determines what we notice in the world, how we interpret events, what actions we take. And all of this affects the results we get. A stressed mind sees problems everywhere. A creative mind sees possibilities everywhere. And both are right. They're just seeing different aspects of the same reality. Now, let's talk about concrete steps. What can you do to leave survival mode? First and most important is awareness. You can't change what you don't see. And the first step is to honestly admit that you're under stress. Don't minimize, don't justify, don't compare with others. Just see, yes, I'm living in survival mode. Yes, it's affecting my life. Yes, I want to change this. This isn't as easy as it sounds. Because, as I said earlier, we're used to stress. It's become the norm. And so, to see it means to question your normality. It means admitting that the way I've been living isn't optimal. And that's an uncomfortable admission. But it's necessary. Without this first step, all others are impossible. So just stop for a moment. Look at your life. How do you feel every morning? How do you feel throughout the day? How do you fall asleep? What do you feel in your body right now? Where is tension? Where is discomfort? Give yourself an honest answer. Second is breathing. This sounds trivial, but breathing is the simplest and fastest way to affect your nervous system. When we're stressed, we breathe shallowly and quickly. This is part of the survival reaction, and it maintains the stress state. But if you consciously change your breathing, make it deeper and slower, you send a signal to your brain that everything is fine, that there's no danger, that it's okay to relax. And the brain responds. It begins to turn off survival mode. This works because breathing is the only function that is both automatic and under our control. We can't command our heart to beat slower. We can't command our digestion to work better, but we can change our breathing, and through breathing, affect everything else. Try simply stopping a few times a day and taking a few deep breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. This takes a minute, but the effect accumulates. Gradually, your nervous system learns a new baseline state, calmer, more balanced. Third is movement. Our body is programmed to respond to stress with physical action, run or fight. And when we don't do this, stress hormones stay in the body. They have nowhere to go. They circulate and poison us from within. Physical activity is the natural way to release this energy, not necessarily intense sports. Walking, dancing, swimming, yoga, anything that brings you pleasure. It's important that the movement is regular and that it brings joy, not becoming another source of stress. When you move, your body completes the stress response cycle. Hormones break down, muscles relax, energy is released. And after this, it's easier for your body to shift into a state of recovery and creation. Fourth is sleep. In our culture, sleep is undervalued. It's considered a waste of time, a luxury that can be cut for more important things. But this is a deep mistake. Sleep isn't just rest. It's an active process of recovery and creation. During sleep, your brain processes information, forms new neural connections, consolidates memory, cleanses itself of toxins. Creative solutions often come precisely after good sleep, because the brain had time to think everything through. Chronic sleep deprivation is a direct path to survival mode. When you don't get enough sleep, your stress reactivity increases. Everything seems like a bigger problem than it really is. You get irritated more easily, think worse, burn out faster. And no amount of coffee compensates for this. Make sleep a priority, not a luxury, not what's left after all other tasks, but a priority. Create conditions for quality sleep. A dark room, cool temperature, no screens before bed. And give yourself enough time. For most people, that's 7 to 9 hours. Fifth is boundaries. One of the main causes of chronic stress is the absence of boundaries. We take on too much. We don't know how to say no. We let other people and circumstances dictate how we live. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's acknowledging that your time, your energy, your well-being are valuable, that you have the right to protect them, that you're not obligated to be everything to everyone. This doesn't mean becoming selfish or abandoning responsibility. It means being honest with yourself and others about your capabilities. It's better to do less but well than a lot but stressed and exhausted. Learn to say no without guilt. Learn to delegate. Learn to ask for help. Learn to let go of what isn't truly important. This will free up a huge amount of energy that's currently going to survival. Sixth is the practice of presence. Much of our stress isn't from real problems, but from thoughts about problems. We worry about a future that hasn't come yet. We chew over a past that can no longer be changed. And all this time we're missing the only thing that actually exists, the present moment. When you bring attention back to the present, stress decreases. Because in the present moment, things are usually fine. Right now, in this second, is there a real threat? Most often, no. The threat exists only in our thoughts about the future. The practice of presence isn't necessarily meditation, though meditation helps a lot. It's simply the habit of returning to here and now, noticing what's happening around you, feeling your body, paying attention to simple things, the taste of food, the warmth of the sun, the sound around you. This grounds you and takes you out of the whirlwind of anxious thoughts. Seventh is reviewing beliefs. Much of our stress comes from deep beliefs we carry within us. Beliefs about how things should be, about what we must do, about what's expected of us, about what will happen if we don't cope. These beliefs are often unconscious. We absorb them in childhood, from parents, from school, from society. And they work on autopilot, generating stress even when there's no real threat. Start noticing your thoughts. When you feel stress, what are you thinking? What belief is behind it? I must be perfect. I can't allow myself to make a mistake. If I don't make it in time, it will be a catastrophe. I won't be loved if I'm not good enough. Question these beliefs. Is this really true? How do I know this? What will actually happen if I don't perform perfectly? Is there an alternative way to think about this? Often, when we bring beliefs into the light of consciousness, they lose their power over us. Eighth is connection. Humans are social beings. We're not designed for isolation. And one of the most powerful antidotes to stress is genuine connection with other people. When we feel seen, understood, accepted, our nervous system calms down. This is deeply embedded in us evolutionarily. Being part of the tribe meant being safe. Being rejected meant death. And so our body reacts so strongly to social connections. Find people with whom you can be authentic, not the social contact where you play a role, where you try to make an impression, but genuine connection, where you can show your vulnerability, share what you feel, and be accepted as you are. This could be one close friend. It could be a therapist. It could be a support group. What matters is that there's a space in your life where you don't have to survive, where you can simply be. Ninth is nature. We evolved in a natural environment. Our bodies and brains are tuned for interaction with nature. And when we spend all our time in artificial environments, in offices, in apartments, in front of screens, we deprive ourselves of something important. Research shows that being in nature lowers cortisol levels, reduces anxiety, improves mood. Even short walks in a park have an effect. Even plants in the office. Even paintings with natural landscapes. Find opportunities to regularly be in nature. Walk in parks. Go out of the city. Take care of plants. Listen to the sounds of nature. This is one of the simplest and most pleasant ways to leave survival mode. 10th, and perhaps most important, is meaning. We can endure almost any stress if we see meaning in it. The problem isn't difficulties themselves, but difficulties without purpose. When you live in accordance with your values, when you do what matters to you, when you see a larger meaning in your efforts, stress transforms. It stops being destructive and becomes fuel. It stops exhausting and starts inspiring. Ask yourself, what am I doing all this for? What's truly important to me? How is what I do connected to my deepest values? If you don't find an answer, that's a signal. Maybe you're living someone else's life. Maybe you're pursuing goals that aren't really yours. Finding your meaning is perhaps the deepest work a person can do. And it's worth the effort, because when you live your life with your meaning, with your purpose, this is no longer survival. This is creation in the highest sense of the word. Now I want to talk about another important aspect, the connection between stress and time, because how we perceive time is deeply connected to our stress state. In survival mode, time becomes the enemy. There's never enough of it. It presses on us. We're constantly running somewhere, constantly not making it, constantly feeling like we're falling behind. This constant time pressure is one of the main sources of modern stress. But time isn't an objective reality. Time is our perception, and our perception of time changes depending on our inner state. When we're stressed, time flies fast, and we feel there's not enough of it. When we're relaxed and present, time stretches, and we feel there's enough. Think about vacation. The first day seems long, full. You have time for a lot. You notice details. You enjoy every moment. But when you return to your usual stress, days merge, weeks fly by, years pass unnoticed. And you wonder, where did time go? It went to survival, to anxiety about the future, and chewing over the past, to automatic existence when you don't notice the present. Time didn't disappear. You were simply absent from it. Creativity exists in a different time, in a time where there's space, where you can stop, think, dream, where you don't have to hurry, where the process is more important than the result. This time can't be found in survival mode. It can only be created by leaving this mode. So one of the most valuable gifts you can give yourself is the gift of time. Not time filled with tasks, not productive time, but empty time. time when nothing needs to be done, time just to be. In our culture, this seems like waste. How can you allow yourself to do nothing? So many tasks, so many responsibilities, but it's precisely in this empty time that creativity is born. That's where ideas arise. That's where we restore connection with ourselves. Try, at least once a week, to give yourself an hour of absolutely free time. An hour when you're not rushing anywhere, not planning anything, not expecting messages from anyone. Just be. Look out the window. Walk without purpose. Sit in silence. Listen to music. Draw, right? Or do nothing at all. At first, this will be uncomfortable. Your stressed mind will protest. It will say you're wasting time, that you need to do something, that this is unproductive. Don't listen to it. That's the voice of survival. That's the fear of space, of silence, of meeting yourself. Gradually, you'll learn to value this time. It will become not a luxury for you, but a necessity. It will become a source from which you draw energy for creation. It will become an oasis in the desert of everyday life. Now I want to talk about another important thing, the fear of failure, because it's one of the most powerful blockers of creativity, and it's deeply connected to stress. In survival mode, failure is death. Literally, if our ancestor failed to track prey or couldn't escape a predator, they died. And so our brain is programmed to avoid failure at any cost. Failure activates the same brain areas as physical pain. We feel it almost as strongly as a physical threat. But in the modern world, failure isn't death. A failed project, a rejected idea, a mistake at work, all of this is uncomfortable but not deadly. We can try again. We can learn from mistakes. We can grow through failures. Creativity without failure is impossible. Every great artist, writer, inventor, they all experienced failures. Many failures. It's part of the process. Creativity is an experiment. An experiment implies that most attempts won't work. This is normal. This isn't a problem. It's the path. But when you're in survival mode, you can't afford failure. You're afraid to try something new. You play it safe. You stay in your comfort zone, even if this comfort zone is actually very uncomfortable. Better familiar suffering than unknown risk. And so you never create anything truly new. You repeat what already worked. You copy others. You're afraid of your own voice, your own vision, your own uniqueness. Because uniqueness is risk. Uniqueness means you might be rejected, not accepted, laughed at. To create, you need to rethink your attitude toward failure. See it not as a threat, but as feedback. Not as an end, but as a step. Not as a verdict, but as an opportunity to learn. This is easier said than done. Our fear of failure is deep and irrational. But you can practice. You can start with small risks. You can learn to experience failures and see that the world doesn't collapse. Gradually, the fear diminishes. Gradually, space for creativity appears. I want to tell you about another important aspect of leaving survival mode: forgiveness. Forgiving yourself and forgiving others. Because unforgiveness is a heavy burden that keeps us in stress. When we hold onto grievances, onto anger, onto resentments, we spend a huge amount of energy. This energy could go toward creation, toward life, toward joy. But instead it goes toward maintaining old wounds, toward chewing over the past, toward bitterness. Forgiveness isn't about saying that what happened was okay. It's not about justifying those who hurt you. It's about freeing yourself, letting go of the burden, stopping to let the past poison the present. Especially important is forgiving yourself. Many people carry within them deep shame, deep guilt for something they did or didn't do in the past. And this shame and guilt are a source of constant stress. They make us prove our worth, compensate, work ourselves to exhaustion. They don't give us peace. Forgive yourself. You were doing the best you could with the understanding and resources you had at that moment. You're imperfect, and that's normal. You're human. Humans make mistakes. Your mistakes don't define your worth. When you forgive, you feel lighter, physically lighter, as if a stone falls from your chest. And in this lightness, space appears for creation, for joy, for life. Now I want to talk about the role of the body in all of this, because we often forget that we're not just mind. We are body, and our body carries stress just as much as our mind. Stress accumulates in the body. In tense shoulders, in clenched jaws, in a tight stomach, in shallow breathing. We may think everything is fine. We may convince ourselves we're coping, but the body doesn't lie. The body always shows the truth. And that's why working with the body is an important part of leaving survival mode. It's not enough to just change thoughts. You need to release stress from the body. Otherwise, it will keep coming back again and again because the body remembers. There are many ways to work with the body. Yoga, massage, dance, swimming, any movement that brings pleasure. There are also special techniques, somatic practices that help release trapped emotions and trauma from the body. But the simplest is to just start noticing your body. Where is tension? Where is discomfort? Where is pain? And instead of ignoring these signals, listen to them. Breathe into these places. Consciously relax them. Allow the tension to melt. This is slow work. We've been accumulating stress in our bodies for years. You can't free yourself in one day. But every small step matters. Every conscious relaxation is a step toward freedom. I also want to talk about the role of play. Play is the opposite of survival. Play has no practical purpose. Play isn't trying to achieve anything, prove anything to anyone. Play is pure creation for the sake of the process itself. Children play constantly. For them, play is a natural state. But we adults have forgotten how to play. We've become too serious, too responsible, too busy surviving. And the loss of play is the loss of creativity. Because play and creativity are essentially the same thing. It's a state when you're free from pressure, from expectations, from fear. When you simply experiment, try, explore, without purpose, without judgment. Bring play back into your life. Not as another task on the to-do list, but as a state of being. Play with ideas, play with words, play with shapes and colors. Allow yourself to be unserious, funny, absurd. Open up the inner child within you, who's still there and still wants to play. And you don't have to play well. You don't have to play productively. You don't have to play so there's a result. Just play. This is valuable in itself. This is healing in itself. This is what returns you to a state of creation. I realize that everything I'm talking about might seem too simple. You might think, breathing, walks, play, how can this change anything serious? I have real problems, real stress, real challenges. I understand this skepticism, but here's what I want to say. Big changes are made up of small ones. You can't change your life with one decision, one insight, one text you read. But you can change it with thousands of small decisions, thousands of small practices, thousands of small moments of awareness. Every time you consciously choose a deeper breath, you take a step from survival to creation. Every time you notice your tension and release it, you take a step. Every time you give yourself a minute of calm in the midst of chaos, you take a step, and these steps accumulate. They change neural pathways in your brain. They change hormonal balance in your body. They change your habits and patterns. Gradually, imperceptibly, but inexorably. This isn't a quick process. This isn't a magic pill, but it works. It works because you're not trying to overcome your nature. You're working with it. You're using the same mechanisms that kept you in stress to get out of it. You're reprogramming the system from within. Now I want to talk about another important aspect, about expectations. Because our expectations are one of the main sources of stress. We constantly have expectations. Expectations of ourselves, of other people, of life. We expect things to be a certain way. And when reality doesn't match our expectations, we suffer. Stress is often the difference between how things are and how we think they should be. The bigger this difference, the bigger the stress. And so one of the most effective ways to reduce stress is to review your expectations. This doesn't mean giving up dreams and goals. It means being flexible about how exactly they're realized. It means accepting reality as it is and working with it, instead of fighting against it. A creative person doesn't try to force reality to match their expectations. They work with what is. They see possibilities and limitations. They find solutions where others see only problems. This is a state of openness, flexibility, adaptability. It's the opposite of rigidity and control that characterize survival mode. Survival tries to control everything. Creation accepts uncertainty and dances with it. Practice acceptance. When something doesn't go as you planned, stop, breathe, tell yourself, okay, this happened. What can I do with this now? Instead of spending energy on resistance, on complaints, on regret, direct it toward finding solutions. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being active in the right direction. Not fighting with reality, but creating within it. Not changing what can't be changed, but focusing on what can. Now I want to talk about gratitude, because gratitude is one of the most powerful antidotes to stress, and at the same time, one of the simplest. In survival mode, we focus on what we don't have, on problems, on threats, on scarcity. This makes sense from a survival perspective. You need to see danger, you need to know what's lacking. But this creates a constant background of negativity that exhausts and depresses. Gratitude shifts the focus. It turns attention to what we have, to what's good, to what works. And this isn't just positive thinking. It's a real change in how the brain functions. Research shows that the practice of gratitude lowers cortisol levels, improves sleep, strengthens the immune system, increases life satisfaction. And all of this from such a simple thing as noticing the good. Try every evening to write down 3 things you're grateful for. Not big things, not special things, just anything. Tasty coffee in the morning, a stranger's smile, a sunbeam through the window, an interesting conversation, a moment of peace. Gradually, you'll start seeing more good around you. Your brain will learn to notice the positive, not just the negative, and your overall state will change. You'll feel more lightness, more joy, more resources for creation. Now I want to talk about the role of inspiration, because inspiration is the fuel of creativity, and it doesn't come in survival mode. Inspiration is a state when we feel connection with something greater than ourselves. When we see beauty, feel admiration, experience wonder. It's a moment when life seems meaningful, full, wondrous. In survival mode, there's no room for inspiration. We're too busy with problems to see beauty. We're too exhausted to feel admiration. We're too closed off to experience wonder. But inspiration can be cultivated. You can consciously seek what inspires. Art, music, nature, stories of great people, deep conversations, new ideas. Surround yourself with what lifts your spirit. Allow yourself to experience beauty and admiration. And don't think this is a luxury you can't afford. Inspiration isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Without it, we fade, we become mechanical, we lose meaning. Inspiration is food for the soul, and the soul needs it just as the body needs physical food. I also want to talk about the importance of solitude. Not isolation, not loneliness, but healthy, chosen solitude. Time alone with yourself. In our hyper-connected world, we're almost never alone. Someone is always nearby, physically or virtually. a constant stream of messages, notifications, information. And this doesn't give us space for inner life. Creativity needs solitude. It needs silence. It needs time when no one is watching, no one is judging, no one is expecting an answer. Time when you can simply be with yourself. Listen to yourself. Feel yourself. In survival mode, solitude seems like a threat, because alone we're left with our thoughts, with our fears, with our pain. And we avoid this. We fill every moment with something: work, entertainment, social contacts. Anything to not be left alone. But escape from solitude is escape from yourself. And escape from yourself is escape from your creativity. Because creativity is born inside. It arises from the depths of your being. And if you never turn to this depth, you'll never get the treasures from there. Learn to be alone with yourself. Start with small portions, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just sit in silence, without phone, without a book, without music. Just be. Notice what happens inside. Allow thoughts and feelings to emerge. At first, this will be uncomfortable. Anxious thoughts may appear, painful memories, unpleasant emotions. This is normal. This is what you were running from. But if you don't run this time, if you simply stay with it, it will gradually dissolve. And behind it will open space. Space of silence, space of peace, space of creativity. Now I want to talk about the importance of rituals, because rituals are a way to create structure that supports us in leaving survival mode. Rituals aren't necessarily something religious or esoteric. They're simply repeated actions that have meaning for us. Morning coffee, evening walk, Sunday dinner with family, daily journal writing. Anything you do regularly and that has meaning for you. Rituals are important because they create anchor points in the chaos of life. They give a sense of predictability, stability, control. And this helps the nervous system calm down. In survival mode, life seems chaotic and unpredictable. We never know what's around the corner. And this constant chaos maintains stress. Rituals are islands of order in the midst of chaos. They tell our nervous system, everything is fine. There are things you can rely on. There's structure that holds. Create your rituals. A morning ritual that helps you start the day with the right mindset. An evening ritual that helps you calm down and prepare for sleep. A weekly ritual that gives you time for recovery and reflection. These rituals don't have to be complex or long. What matters is that they're regular and that they have meaning for you. What matters is that they're yours, not copied from someone else, but ones that resonate with you specifically. I want to talk about another important topic, about the inner critic, because this voice inside us is often one of the biggest sources of stress. We all have an inner critic. It's the voice that says we're not good enough, that we're doing everything wrong, that others are better, that we don't deserve success, love, happiness. This voice can be very loud and very cruel. The inner critic is part of survival mode. It formed to protect us. It criticizes us before others do. It keeps us within bounds so we don't risk and don't make mistakes. In some sense, it's trying to help. It just does it in a very destructive way. The problem is that the inner critic completely blocks creativity. Because creativity requires the courage to try new things, and the critic says new things will be bad. Creativity requires showing your work to the world, and the critic says will be laughed at. Creativity requires believing in yourself, and the critic says we're worthless. How to work with the inner critic. First, hear it. Notice when it speaks. Many people are so used to this voice that they don't even recognize it as a separate voice. They think it's just the truth. But it's not truth, it's the critic. Then, don't fight with it. Fighting only makes it stronger. Instead of fighting, observe. Tell yourself, oh, the critic again. Interesting. Don't agree with it, but don't argue either. Just notice. And finally, give yourself what the critic doesn't give you. Give yourself compassion, understanding, support. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend. With kindness, with warmth, with respect. Gradually, you'll learn not to identify with the critic. You'll hear it, but not obey it. You'll know it's just one voice among many, and not the most important one. And then you'll have space for creativity, for risk, for growth. I want to talk about another important topic, about completion. Because our life in survival mode often feels like constant incompleteness. Tasks we started and didn't finish. Projects hanging in the air. Conversations that didn't happen. Conflicts that aren't resolved. All of this unfinished accumulates and presses on us. It takes up space in our mind, consumes our energy, generates stress. There's even a special term for this, the Zeigarnik effect. Our brain remembers incomplete tasks better than complete ones, and it constantly reminds us of them, giving us no peace. It's like dozens of open tabs in a browser. Each consumes resources, even when we're not looking at them. Completion is a way to free up this resource. Close the tabs, clear the mental clutter, and in this freedom space appears for creativity. So find time to review your incomplete tasks. What can be completed? What can be delegated? What can simply be let go? Admit that you'll never do it and stop keeping it in your head. It's especially important to complete emotional matters. Conversations you're putting off. Apologies you haven't said. Gratitude you haven't expressed. These incomplete things can weigh for years, decades. They take much more energy than it seems. Gather the courage to complete. Have that difficult conversation. Say what you've long wanted to say. Say goodbye to what needs to be said goodbye to. And feel how it becomes lighter. How space appears. How energy is freed for creation. Now, I want to talk about choice. Because our ability to choose is perhaps our greatest power. And at the same time, what we often forget in survival mode. In survival, we feel like victims of circumstances. We think we have no choice, that we're forced, that we must, that there's no alternative. But this is an illusion. There's almost always a choice. We just don't see it because stress narrows our vision. Creativity is the realization of choice. Every creative act is a choice of what to create, a choice of how to create, a choice of whether to create at all. When you realize your ability to choose, you stop being a victim and become an author. The author of your life, your destiny, your story. Start noticing your choices, even small ones. You choose what to eat for breakfast. You choose how to react to a colleague. You choose what to spend your time on. These aren't trivialities. This is exercising your deepest human power. And when you notice you have choice in small things, you start seeing choice in big things. You can choose a different job. You can choose different relationships. You can choose a different way of living. This doesn't mean it's easy, but it's possible. And the possibility itself is freedom. Now I want to talk about energy. Because energy is the currency of life, and how we manage it determines everything. In survival mode, we're constantly spending energy. Spending on anxiety, on fear, on self-defense. Spending on internal conflicts, on resisting reality, on chewing over the past. And as a result, we never have enough energy for what truly matters. Creativity requires energy. It requires surplus from which to create. When you're exhausted, you can't create. You can only survive, preserving what remains. So energy management is a key skill. This means being aware of what takes your energy and what gives it. Being aware of when you're exhausted and giving yourself rest. Being aware of your energy cycles and working with them, not against them. There are things that give energy: sleep, movement, nature, inspiration, connection with close people, meaningful work, joy, play. And there are things that take energy: stress, conflicts, incomplete tasks, toxic relationships, meaningless work, constant pressure. Look at your life through this lens. Where are you losing energy? Where are you getting it? And how can you change the balance? How can you reduce what takes and increase what gives? This isn't always fully possible, but almost always it's possible at least a little. A bit more sleep, a bit less social media, a bit more walks, a bit fewer toxic people. Over time, this creates a completely different energy balance. I want to talk about another important topic about trust. Trust in yourself, in others, in life. In survival mode, there's no room for trust. Trust is risk. If you trust, you can be betrayed. If you open up, you can be hurt. So survival demands closure, suspicion, control. But without trust, creativity is impossible. Creativity is always a leap into the unknown. It's always risk. You can't create if you don't trust the process. You can't create if you don't trust yourself. You can't create if you don't trust that the world will somehow receive what you've created. Trust isn't naivety. It doesn't mean you should trust everyone and always. It means the ability to choose trust where it's appropriate. It means not being blocked by fear. It means allowing yourself to open up despite the risk. Start small. Trust someone with something minor. Share something personal with a close person. Show your creative work without expecting approval. Risk and see what happens. Often will be good. People will respond, support, appreciate. And each such experience will build your capacity for trust. Will show that not everything in the world is a threat, but there's also good and support and acceptance. Of course, sometimes it will hurt. Sometimes trust will be betrayed. But even this can be survived. You can heal and move forward. And the ability to survive betrayal is also part trust, because real trust isn't expecting everything to be perfect. It's knowing you'll handle whatever comes. I want to talk about one more important thing about letting go, because letting go is perhaps the deepest practice of leaving survival mode. Survival holds on to what is, afraid to lose, afraid of changes. Survival is constant squeezing, constant grip. Creativity lets go. It lets go of the old so the new can come. It lets go of control so magic can happen. It lets go of fear so courage can appear. What do you need to let go of? Maybe old grievances you've carried for years. Maybe expectations that no longer serve you. Maybe relationships that ended long ago, but you're still holding on. Maybe a version of yourself that's no longer relevant. Letting go isn't weakness. It's enormous strength. It takes courage to let go of what we're used to. It takes faith that something better will come. It takes trust in life that it will hold us even without what we're holding on to. Practice letting go. Start with small things. Let go of expectations for tomorrow. Let go of a grievance over some minor incident. Let go of an old thing you should have thrown away long ago. And notice how it becomes lighter, how space appears, how something new is born in this space. Now I want to talk about what creation looks like in practice, because this isn't necessarily about art or some big projects. Creation is a way of being that manifests in everything. Creation is how you cook lunch, not just mechanically following a recipe, but putting in love, attention, presence. Creation is how you communicate with people, not just exchanging information, but truly listening, truly responding. Creation is how you approach problems, not just applying ready solutions, but seeking new paths. Creation is presence, openness, engagement. It's the opposite of mechanical existence, when you just do what you've always done, not thinking, not feeling, not noticing. You can create your life in every moment. Every moment is an opportunity to choose creation instead of survival, to choose presence instead of autopilot, to choose openness instead of closure. And when you live this way, life becomes a work of art, not in the sense that everything is perfect, but in the sense that everything has meaning. Everything is fully lived. Everything is done with attention and love. This isn't utopia. This is real possibility, but it requires leaving survival mode. Requires courage, practice, patience. Requires again and again choosing creation, even when fear pulls you back to survival. In closing this part, I want to say this. What I'm talking about isn't about achieving some perfect state. It's not about never feeling stress again. Stress is part of life. It will appear. There will be moments when survival mode activates, and that's normal. But there's a difference between temporary stress and chronic survival. Temporary stress is a reaction to a real challenge that ends when the challenge is past. Chronic survival is a permanent state that has become the norm that never ends. The goal isn't to completely eliminate stress. The goal is to make it temporary, not permanent. The goal is to have a baseline state of calm and creation from which you respond to challenges and to which you return after them. It's like breathing. Inhale, tension. Exhale, relaxation. We need both. The problem is when there's only inhale, when there's no exhale, when tension never subsides. Learn to exhale. Learn to let go. Learn to return to calm. And then life will become rhythm. Not constant tension, but a dance between activity and rest, between challenge and creation.